What's up, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. We've got some interesting stuff to go over, so let's go ahead and get right into it. And we're starting off with over 10 million units sold across Europe when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. This is what the official Nintendo of Europe had to say on Twitter. More than 10 million consoles in the Nintendo Switch family have been sold across Europe, and they just showed off the Nintendo Switch Lite, some of the promotional marketing and all of that for the new Switch and everything. Pretty cool stuff, right? 10 million units. However, there's a little bit more that we needed to add to it. Daniel Ahmed on Twitter, who is an analyst, he talked about the numbers a bit more and kind of showed a little bit more depth into what's going on in Europe and the Nintendo Switch. So he stated that 2019 sales up 30% year on year. So for those who don't know what that is, so you take last year and you combined the sales where they were at this exact point, you compare that to this year, and that's how you can get the year-on-year sales being up or down. Now in the Nintendo Switch's case, they were up 30%, so that's a good thing. Now approximately 25% of this 10 million sold of the install base in Europe is from France. So as it clearly shows here, guys, 25% of Europe when it comes to sales, France alone with the Nintendo Switch, that is a huge number, and by far Nintendo's best market in Europe is France, easily. Now the US reached 10 million units in December of 2018, so this is adding some perspective. All right, we're gonna add some perspective with these next two ones here. US reached 10 million sales in December 2018, and Japan is at 9.5 million alone. He also had this to say: install base continues to grow, but Europe remains a weaker market for Nintendo in comparison to the US and Japan, because you have to look at it. Europe is a massive area, right? It's a massive area with tons and millions of people. Yet if you look at what the US and Japan are doing, especially what's telling is Japan is so much smaller than Europe, and in Japan they have 9.5 million units sold alone, just in Japan, the tiny island compared to all of Europe. And in the US we reached that a year ago, a year ago in December, or going on a year ago in December, right? We're already in October. So the fact that it's taken this long, almost an additional year to hit that 10 million, that's definitely telling. Nintendo definitely needs to pick up the game a little bit when it comes to Europe. Now, what are some things that Nintendo can do in order to have more of a foothold in Europe? Well, they have to probably get more of the traditional third-party support that Europeans are used to having, and that is stuff like EA games, right? Having stuff like FIFA and not having a crappy version of FIFA. They need to have a good version of FIFA that's not bad, but that's EA. I mean, obviously having stuff like Star Wars, that would be a big help. Having stuff like Grand Theft Auto, that would be a big help as well. Just having all of those traditional, more third-party games, that's just going to help. But also, another thing to note is that the Nintendo Switch is pretty expensive in Europe, even when you factor in the Switch Lite. But most Europeans would probably want the Switch that docks to your TV and everything, right? That's just kind of what they would probably want, and that's still somewhat expensive when it comes down to it. So getting the components cheaper and making sure that they can have some of that third-party support is going to be ways for Nintendo to increase the install base in Europe. So I'm thinking that it's probably going to just go with more of the price type of thing, because I just don't think that there's going to be all these third-party games that PlayStation 4 and Xbox and even going into next generation that they're going to get. The Switch isn't just going to get all of those out of nowhere, or whatever the case is, just because of the architecture and kind of what Nintendo's doing. So making sure that they work on the price and seeing if they can at least get some type of decent version of a football game, and I mean the world's game of football, right? Soccer here in the US. They need to get a decent version of like a football game on the Nintendo Switch, because FIFA just isn't cutting it. Like, it's just not cutting it. I know the first FIFA game that came out on Switch, that had some success, but this one, the newest one, is just basically a slap in the face to all football fans out there. So Nintendo is doing pretty good. Obviously, they're happy with that because the sales are up, and this is definitely better than the Wii U. We also need to put that into perspective, that the Wii U, you look at that, that sold what, 13 million almost total, and this is pretty much in Europe alone about to eclipse what the Wii U did. So it's still good. It's not horrible, but there's room to improve, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, there could be just something to where, hey, look, this is just a weak market for us. We're going to continue to work hard, but it is just a weaker market. I think Microsoft and Sony have realized that, you know what, Japan's just a weak market for us. We can't really sell anything in that country, so we're just going to focus on the ones that we can. So Nintendo, I think that they're doing a good job with just kind of globalizing things, right, when it comes down to what sells in each region, because pretty much the games that are popular here in the US are popular in Japan and are popular in Europe. When it comes to Nintendo Switch exclusives, right, Mario, Zelda, all that stuff, it can pretty much sell in every single region. So Nintendo's doing a good job with that. Stuff like Mario Kart, right, Mario Odyssey, all of that, Super Smash Brothers, sells in all the different types of regions. So Nintendo does have that globalized software that they can release. And I think a game like Luigi's Mansion 3, that's really going to help out with some of these sales here, Switch Lite and everything. So I think it'll continue going up, but good stuff for Nintendo, but room for improvement as well. And Japan coming up on 10 million. That's really impressive for Japan alone. That's really impressive, which we're going to talk about once it does hit that milestone later this year. So what are you guys' thoughts on this when it comes to 10 million units sold across Europe? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, now moving on to the next topic here, guys. Sony Interactive Entertainment Europe has been hit with layoffs, and this was on October 8th, and that's a very interesting date because it does seem like to me, after reading all of this, that Sony covered up the bad news of the layoffs with the news of the PlayStation 5 in terms of the launch date and some of the different features and everything, because that dominated the talk on October 8th and not layoffs and people losing their jobs in Europe. So let's go and get into this article here. Shout outs to Gamatsu for it. So Sony Interactive Entertainment America directors visited Sony Interactive Entertainment Europe in London on October 8th to announce the restructure of several divisions, including marketing and public relations. According to a VGC report citing people with knowledge of the situation, dozens of employees were reportedly affected, who were said to have been given a notice. Meetings were made for those to re-interview for their positions. The United States-based creative services team reportedly saw a number of layoffs. One employee tweeted, quote, "I was part of a creative services team at PlayStation that got laid off today. This group of talented and passionate people are out of a job and are now looking for work. If you're hiring for project coordinators, managers, and designers, please post below. I hate that this is going to be drowned by the PS5 announcement. For the record also, I absolutely loved working at PlayStation. It was a dream come true. Many people got to see my art through campaigns and such. The people and environment are exactly what makes me and my friends sad to leave. It was a great place to work." VGC reported that Sony Interactive Entertainment America's influence over Sony Interactive Entertainment has grown significantly over the past year as the company moves towards a globalized structure. While each regional branch operated individually in the past, European branch employees that spoke to VGC feel the branch will have a much lesser influence during the PlayStation 5 console generation. The report states that European branch employees were not aware of the US branch's decision to announce the PlayStation 5 details via Wired on October 8th, only finding out about it post-publishing. It should be noted, however, that the Japanese branch was aware as it published its own PlayStation blog post a minute before the US PlayStation blog. When contacted by VGC, Sony Interactive Entertainment reportedly declined to comment. So a very interesting kind of turn of events and what's going on here. And it definitely seems like they have seized power, and they being Sony Interactive Entertainment America, they're the ones that are going to be running the show when it comes to the marketing, when it comes to what's going on, when it comes to controlling the narrative of the news flow and everything. It looks like the American branch is what's going to be the deal. They're going to be calling the shots when it comes to like PlayStation pricing and all of that, sales and deals, and then everyone else is going to get the filter to it. Now, Nintendo kind of operates like this a little bit, if you want to just kind of throw in just, you know, somebody else when it comes to the video game industry, but it's Nintendo of Japan that kind of calls all the shots, that kind of filters things down. Now, Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe, they do have their calls here and there. Heck, we've seen it with Nintendo of Europe deciding to localize Xenoblade Chronicles. That was their decision. Nintendo of Japan or Nintendo of America didn't influence that. Now, that's kind of been changed with the Switch. Pretty much everything's kind of coming down from Nintendo of Japan, and they've done a good job of all being on the same page for the most part when it comes to a lot of different things, because we're just pretty much seeing everything all in Europe, all in the US, everything just kind of all be centralized when it comes to release dates and things like that. We're not seeing certain games miss certain regions like we saw all throughout the Wii's lifespan. And heck, even with the Wii U, with some stuff coming in Europe in different days when it comes to the US or Japan, everything's a lot more unified in that front. But I'm pretty sure Nintendo of Japan's still calling things, or maybe they're even just working together that much better. But when it comes back to the PlayStation 5 and everything, it does seem like the announcement was meant to kind of cover up things because it was on the same day. The European branch wasn't aware of what was going on with the announcement. They weren't aware that they were even going to be talking about that. So everyone's talking about the PlayStation 5 and everything online. But oh, here you go. You guys don't need to know about that we're announcing it today in terms of like the launch timing and the controller and all that. You guys are actually fired. You guys have been let go. So that's very unfortunate. Just like the employee said, it was really unfortunate that the announcement was on the same day because it's drowning out these people being out of a job and potentially having some more eyes on them, sympathy eyes to say, hey, maybe I can find you a job here or something like that, because it is getting drowned out here when it comes down to it. And these people need jobs. They need to be able to feed, you know, their families and take care of themselves. And it's not cheap to live in Europe either. And also, if you look at the US branch, they've also had some layoffs too. So it does just seem like Sony did say, hey, let's go ahead and do this the same day in order to minimize the damage from the reports of the layoffs. And now we're getting this news a couple days later, or pretty much the next day or so. But the PlayStation 5 got its time for everyone's just talking about that, and there was nothing bad. But it is what it is. It's very unfortunate for the employees there, and I'm hoping that they can find something soon. It looks like the PS5 and Sony, they're doing things definitely differently because of the investments and kind of what's going on. And there's been a lot of big changes at Sony. There's been a lot of big changes. Sean Layton's gone just kind of like out of nowhere. There's been a lot of weird things, but this is what happens, man. This is what happens when you're dealing with this type of money and you're dealing with this type of huge major corporation and business. These are just some of the things, and it's very unfortunate for those affected, but I hope they can find something and get on their feet and be strong about the whole situation. And I think that the people that work there, they're good people. I'm pretty sure they'll find something very quickly. So what are you guys' thoughts on this when it comes to the layoffs and also Nintendo Switch sales? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.